Alright, so this is going to be sort of a little introduction to episode 8, which is just going to go over a few fixes of the game as well as adding some more effects to it. For example, in this video we just added some weapon trails and sprinting and dashing effects to the game, as well as some sounds for the dashing. And the main focus of this video entirely is on adding controller and mobile compatibility. And yeah, so for a little showcase, if we join the game, and let me go ahead and disable my controller real quick. And let's go ahead and equip our weapons. You notice that first thing we have is new dashing sounds, like so, and dashing effects. Next thing we added is sword trails, which if you equip your sword, you have a sword trail. If you equip fist, you have nothing, and dagger, it works. As well as attacking trails, so you see a red trail on the dagger, as well as a red trail on the sword. And now, let me demonstrate for y'all controller. So if I hook up my controller, like so, and let's go ahead and wait a little bit, you'll see that, okay. And if we go ahead and equip, let's say, our sword, and we hold button X, you notice that the attacking works, as well as holding block. And yeah, same with dashing. Dashing is our L3, which is the middle joystick, and it works like so. And another thing I want to note is we made it to where for dashing on mobile, or no, sprinting on mobile and controller is automatically enabled. So let me disconnect my controller now and switch over to mobile, which you can do so with the emulator. So we'll do mobile iPhone XR, and if we play the game and give ourselves a sword, you notice that sprinting is also enabled, and M1 works, and blocking also works like so. And dashing, obviously you can dash. So yeah, that's pretty much gonna be the video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for watching the series so far. It's been great. And the next episode is going to be the finale and the series ending, which is going to go over all of the combat system in general, explaining things more in depth. So yeah, thank you for watching. The first thing I want to address is the canBlock function that we used to either destroy or allow you to sprint. This is confusing, especially for me too, because rather than having a canBlock function, we honestly should just have something called a canSprint function. Because we have canDash and canBlock, so it's obvious that we should also have canSprint. So we're gonna add that in. So if state service.check state character comma stunned or blocking, attacking, no sprint, no move, dashing, DashCooldown, then return false, otherwise we want to return true. So now if you go back to canBlock, we can say if status folder find fish out sprinting, if not canSprint, then status folder sprinting destroy, like so. And then we can just remove this. Now if we go over here to where we actually want to start sprinting, we can say if canSprint, then do this. And we just get rid of this. And over here, yep, that should be good. So we test the game, we should be able to sprint with a new, okay, we have an error, let's see, error parsing, let's see what the issue is. Oh, right here, forgot to add an end right here, because we need to end the if not canSprint part. And let's see. So if we start sprinting and we stop, and yep, there we go. Obviously if you dash, there's a bit of an end lag before you can sprint again, like so. And yeah. Alright, next up we want to make it to where you can dash a little bit further. Because if you play the game, you'll see that the dashing is a little bit too short. Like, you're barely moving at all when you dash. So we'll add that in. So right here, you'll see that we have the body velocity. So there's one of two ways we can do this. We can either increase our dashing length or we can increase the velocity that we're dashing by. So in this case, we'll just increase the velocity. Because if we increase the dashing length, then that means we'll also have to increase the end lag for it to be proportionate to it. So we will just go over here and change this to maybe 70 and 70 across the board. And another thing I want to note is the dash cooldown, which is 1.5. We need to go up here and remove that from the sprinting thing, because we don't want the player to not be able to sprint if there's a cooldown. That's kind of stupid. And now we should be able to dash further because we increased it from 50 to 70. So there we go. We can dash further now. So obviously you can sort of adjust this based on how you want your game to be. But in this case, we'll just make it 70. Once again, value changing aspect of Roblox. You can just change this to 50, 60, 40 if you so desire to. And yeah, that's going to be that part. And now we're going to go on to adding weapon trails to our weapons. So first off, let's do it for sword. So we can move our sword equipped into workspace to actually edit it. So for these weapon trails, we're going to make two trails. One is going to be for sprinting and one is going to be for our attacking. So in our sword equipped right here, we can add a trail called sprint trail, like so. And you'll notice that trails have a property called attachment O and attachment 1. So a brief overview of what trails do is that there's always a start point and an end point. So in this case, we'll add a attachment to the blade, and we can just call it attachment 1 or attachment O. An important thing to note is that attachments always need to be parented to a base part or some type of part. For example, you can't just parent it to a model, like so, it won't work. But you can parent it to anything else. So we'll just parent it to blade back, and we will move this to the start point, which is going to be around right here on our blade, where we want our sprint trail to start. Right around here. And we want to duplicate it to the end of the sword, so around right here to the tip of the blade. And we call this attachment 1. Naming these doesn't have an effect on the trail, it's just for us to know which attachment is what. So for example, we can call this a start point and we can call this end point. It doesn't really matter. So we can set attachment O to the start point and attachment 1 to the end point. And now if you move the sword around, you see that there's a trail following it, like so. So we will want to edit the lifetime of this to around 0.3. And we want to make the transparency start at around 0.6 and then go to 1. So it fades out. So now, if we move it, you'll see that it has sort of like a fade out trail. So I'm going to make this a bit more transparent, so we can change this to around 0.75. Now if we move it around, you see that it's more transparent. So we'll disable our sprint trail and we will parent it back to sword. Similarly, we will go over here to our dagger and go to dagger equipped, and we will add in the dagger sprint trail. So if we parent it to our primary part, and let's go ahead and reset the origin of these to 0, 0, 0, which is the center of the blade. And start point is going to be around right here. Whoops. It's going to be down right here. And our endpoint is going to be across over here a little bit and up, like so. And now we can just duplicate our trail that we have in blade. Or right here, where did I put it? Right here, in the model, and we can just parent it to our dagger equipped model. And we'll just change the values. So we change the start point, oops. Start point and end point. Now if you move it, oh, we've enabled it first. So now if we enable it, you notice how the trail works. So let's disable it and let's move this back into our Dagger folder. Now we can actually start working on the sprint trail now. So if we scroll down here and we find something called status folder, find first child, sprint scene. Alright, so in here, now we can actually add in the trails. So we can say add in the trails up here. Or instead of that, we can just go down here to after animations and we can say enabling / disabling sprint trails. Make it a comment like so. So we can say if status folder find child sprinting, then else. So now we can loop through our character underscore comma trail question mark and character get descendants to. A trail is a trail and trail.name is equal to whatever that trail is called, which is sprint trail. And then we'll want to enable it. Enable it equals true. So the reason we say trail question mark is because of annotating, which I mentioned a lot in the other videos, but this question mark over here is indicating that we're not sure if all of the descendants are a trail, but we still want to be able to use all of the functions and methods that a trail is. So that's that, and we enable the trail, otherwise we just disable it. So we'll say disable trail, like so. So now if we play the game, you notice that we don't have any trail right now, and if we go over here and equipped our weapons, wait, what's going on? Oh, okay. First thing we also want to do is we want to check for our weapon. Because obviously if we're sprinting, then the trail should be enabled. But we also want to check if our weapon's equipped. So we're going to say local weapon equals character find first child, which is a weapon, not weapon, my bad, a tool. So if weapon, then we can loop through the tool, the weapon. So we can get rid of this and we can loop through the weapon. And another extra sanity check we can do is we can say and weapon data module dot get weapon data weapon.name, like so. And we'll just go ahead and put that out here. So local weapon equals character find first child is a tool. If weapon and weapon data dot get weapon.name, then like so. And we can just copy and paste this in here. And we'll remove these lines. And we will format the script. And instead of character get descendants, we will now do get descendants for the weapon. And over here, we can also do the same. And that should be good. So now, if we play the game, and we equip our weapons, you notice that the sprint trail is disabled, but if we equip our sword, oh, let's see. Let's go to our character, let's see. If weapon and weapon data, if trail is a trail, let's see. Oh, right. Our weapon model isn't parented to the weapon, but it's parented to the character. So we'll just do character get descendants. Right, now if we play the game, you will see that our sword trail is out when we're sprinting, and our dagger trail is out. But another thing is that you'll see that it enables the trail for both the katana and the dagger. And we only want the trail to be enabled for one. So what we want to do is we want to find the corresponding models to the actual weapon name. So in here we can say, we can add a value called weapon name, like so, which is a string, and we can call this dagger. Similarly, we can go over here and we can add a value called weapon name, and then we can call this sword. And then now we can just go ahead and loop through all of the models in the character and check if it has a value called weapon model and weapon name, or an attribute. So we can say for underscore comma model model question mark and character get children do. If model get attribute weapon model equals true, and model get attribute weapon name equals our weapon.name, then we can enable trails. So another thing, an important thing to note is that the weapon name needs to correspond to the actual name of the weapon, or else this won't work. And we can say for underscore comma trail, so we can just copy and paste this. In the model get descendants to. If it's a sprint trail, then we want to enable it. Otherwise, we want to disable it. So we'll enable it, and then over here, we'll just disable it. And over here, instead of looping through all of these, just in case if any trail called sprint trail is enabled, we want to disable it. So we'll just go over here and get rid of the weapon model loop, and we'll just go over here and do that. We'll say character get descendants, and we will disable all sprint trails in the character. Now, if you play the game, and we equipped our weapons, you'll notice that the sword trail is the only trail that's out. And let's see, right, over here, we will, let's see, oh, it's because we don't have a tool equipped. So let's see. All right. Okay, so we can just go over here and we can go outside of the weapon conditional, and we can just disable all trails if we don't have a tool equipped, like so. So now, if we equipped, when you're equipped, you notice our trails disappear. And let's go ahead and equip our dagger too. Let's move our dagger to 3rd. Right, so now if we equip our dagger, you notice the trail's enabled. When equipped, it's disabled. Alright, and if we equip our sword, we dash, you see that the trail works. And this, let's see. If model get attribute, then okay, so we can add another conditional here. So if model get attribute weapon name equals tool.name or weapon.name, then we can enable the trails. Otherwise, we want to loop through the model and disable all the trails. Else, we want to disable the trails. So this might look like a lot, but what we're saying is that if the model that we loop through, which are these models, have the weapon model attribute set to true, then we'll check if the model's weapon name is our weapon name that we have equipped. If it does, then we'll enable all the sprint trails. But if it doesn't, then we'll disable all the sprint trails for the weapon model that's not equipped. So we play the game and equipped our weapons. And we can equip dagger, sword, and you see that now the trails don't actually overlap each other. So, alright. Now we can work on adding attacking trails. So, in here we can move our sword equipped to the workspace, and then we can duplicate this and we can call this attack trail. Like so. Then over here we can go over here to our blade back. Or actually in this case we can just say that, yeah, we can just keep the start and end point the same, because it's already set to this part or this point and this point. But in order to differentiate between the sprint and attack trail, we'll change the trail color to a red color, and we'll enable it to see it work. So you see that, okay, nice, it works. And also in here we can, let's also make it bright. So we can set our light influence to 0 and make this 4 to make it a bit bright. Let's make this brighter a little bit, set it to 10. Alright, and then we can set the color to a really dark or a deep red. There we go. And let's go ahead and disable our attack trail, and then we will move this into here, back. Let's go ahead and copy and paste our attack trail into our dagger and set the attributes to start point and end point. Now, if we go over here, we can also check if we are attacking or not. So you can say enabling / disabling attack trails. So you can say if status folder find first child attacking, then we can do all this, like so. And we can go ahead and just copy and paste this code right here. Actually, yeah, we can just copy and paste that code. But instead of doing that, we can, let's see, we can make a function so it doesn't look like a bunch of duplicated codes. So let's go over here and keep this conditional for now, and we can say local function, let's put it down here a little bit, local function enable or toggle trails, and we can say trail name as well as our yeah, I think that's fine. We can say, yeah, trail name and our boolean. So we want this to be a string and this, the boolean, to be boolean. And now we can say if trail name equals sprint trail, then else if our trail name is equal to the attack trail, then we want to do something different. And let's go over here to our sprint trail, and we can copy and paste this code right here. Let's go ahead and go in here, copy and paste down here, and we say local local finals that are status to check, like so, equals no. And we can say if not status to check, then return end. And here we can say status to check is equal to attacking, status to check is equal to sprinting. And then now we can go over here and say if status folder find for child status to check, then and trail.name is equal to trail name, and over here we can set this to bool and bool, and over here we can just disable all of the trails, and trail.name equals sprint trail, or trail.name equals attack trail, then we'll just disable all of the trails, like so. Let's see, and that should be good. So if we go over down here to our function, we can say toggle trail sprint trail, and then we can say toggle trail attack trail, like so. And we can say if status folder find for child sprinting, then, or no, we don't need to do that. And over here we'll remove our boolean value, and we'll just say true and false. Alright, so what these lines of code do is that if you see where we call the function, we just want to toggle the trails for the sprint and attack trail. And if we go up here, you'll see that, okay, if we want to either enable or disable the sprint trail, we want to check for the status called sprinting, and vice versa. If we have attack trail, we want to check for attacking. And then we can, let's change this to if status to check then, because we don't want our script to return end, because we want the trails to be disabled down here. So we'll go ahead and say if status to check, then, or we can go over here and say and status to check. Alright, now this is just the same code from before. We're checking for the weapon and the status to check and everything like that. And we're checking if we find the status to check, which is either sprinting or attacking, then we want to either enable the trail or disable the trail. And then after that, if we don't have a weapon or anything like that, then we'll just disable the trail, like so. And now if you go over here and you play the game, and we add in our things, you'll see that, okay, the trail disables. Let's say we equip fist, it disables, and then we equip dagger, it enables dagger trail. Now if we start attacking, you see that we have the trail for the dagger. One thing you'll see is that the trail is still there. So down here we can say else if we don't find So status not found, and this is over here status found. Then we can just loop through the character. So similarly, we can go over here and copy and paste this and disable all of the trails. And we can say and trail.name equals trail name, then we just want to disable it. So now if you go over here and let's go to our Dagger, see that the trail is disabled because we're not sprinting anymore, and we unequip the weapon, it works. And you'll see that tech trail works. Here we go. Alright, now that the trails part is done, we want to add in the dashing sounds. Because you notice that we don't have any dashing sounds right now. And it's really bland. So I want to note that everything that you can find, all the resources you can find, is going to be in the resource folder in the description. So I have a new effect, a new sound called dash, which I've already parented to sounds. And you'll hear that as our dash sound. So we go to the function where we dash. So let's go over here times 70 just to find the velocity, and we can add in our dashing sound. So we can say playing dash sound, like so. And conveniently, we already have a module called sound. So we want to require that because we cannot use Fire client or FireL clients on the client. Those can only be called from the server. So we'll need to directly require the module. So we'll say local sound module equals require our modules.clientEffects.sound, like so. And if we go down here to dashing, we can say sound module and get our argument data. And you'll notice that our argument data we have is sound name and the parent. So we'll just say sound name. Let's see what sound name is, like that. Alright, sound name is equal to dash, like so. And then we can say parents is equal to human root part, like so. Now, if you play the game, you'll notice that we have sounds. Yep, and there we go. Now, since we're on the topic of sounds and dashing, we also want to add in dashing effects. So, once again, in the common resources folder, we do have dash effects. So we'll just go ahead and copy and paste those into our effects folder, which we already have. And we'll just clone these based on what the direction is. So you see we already have that. So we can go over here, oops, and we can say doing dash effects. And we'll put this in a separate thread so it doesn't yield the script. So local found dash effect equals assets.effects.dash effects find for shell direction. So we found it, then we want to clone it. So clone. Then clone.parent is equal to workspace.world.effects. Because we already made a folder in here called effects in here. So now we want to weld all of the things. So we're going to weld our dash effect. So weld.part0 equals our root part. And then we want to weld it to, we want to weld the root part to the clone or the dash effect. An important thing to note is that always make sure that canCollide and mask is set to true, because we don't want the character to be colliding with the dash effect or anything like that. I remember noting this in the first video when we were discussing what hitboxes, so if you forgot, refer back to that. And we want to parent our weld to the clone. And now we'll just omit the, or not omit, we'll just enable the effects. So effect, particle emitter, question mark, and clone get the sentence to. If effect is a particle emitter, then we'll want to omit. So we'll say, or not even omit, we want to enable the particles. And then we'll just wait the duration of the dash, so it's has set at like 0.3, which is the duration. And then we'll go ahead and disable the effects. And then we want to destroy the effects after some sort of time. So we'll say clone, comma, let's say 1.5. 1.5 seconds. And then we'll get rid of all the white space, and now we have our dash effect. So now if we play the game, you notice that we have dash effects. And there we go. Alright, now that all of that part is out the way, all of the semi-difficult things, we can start working on controller and mobile compatibility. So, in the comment resources, I have the UI for it already, made for y'all. And then we'll just go ahead and parent this to the starter's UI. You'll notice that all of the visibility for these frames are disabled, and that's intentional. So let's make a local script in here called client, and let's call this controller/mobile compatibility. Alright, now we want to get user input service as one of the services. Let's go ahead and start with our controller compatibility. So we can say user input service gamepad. Not even that. We can make a run service. Get service, run service. We can say run service.render slept, connect function. And we can check if we have a gamepad enabled, which is in this case either your Xbox or your PS5 controller. And then we can either disable or enable the console controls frame. So we can say local UI, screw up parent, local console controls frame, UI with your child console controls, mobile frame equals UI with your child mobile frame. And then we can say, okay, if it's enabled, then we will make the visible true. And if it's disabled, then we will just set the console frame to false. Alright, and let's make a cut from the video here, remember, to get the controller and demonstrate it. Alright, now that that works, we can start doing our mobile frame and making the mobile frame appear if you're on mobile. So let's remove that comment. We can say if user input service dot touch enabled, then we want to enable the mobile frame. Else we'll just go ahead and disable it. You'll notice that there's a lot of repetitiveness with this. So let's refer back to our thing right here. So you see that gamepad enabled returns a Boolean value. So since we know that, we can just say console controls frame visible equals user input service dot gamepad enabled, like so, and that'll remove the need for that. And then as well, we can say mobile frame not visible equals user input service dot touch enabled, and that should work. So now if we play the game, you notice that none of the GUIs are enabled. But let's go ahead and go over here to our emulator. So in order to access this little emulator thing, you have to go to test, and you'll see something called device, controller, and player. So we can click on device, and it'll enable that, and we can go to our iPhone XR or whatever you want. So now if you play the game, you'll notice that we have our GUI pop up for mobile. And then we can just go over here to HD 1080, and you'll see that that's not enabled anymore. So also if we go on PS5 and we play the game, you notice that we have our controller things enabled. So let's switch back to here and go to our client again. So now we actually want to make these buttons work. So let's start with our mobile frame first. We'll want to add in the M1s. So we can say user, let's not do that. We can say mobile frame dot mobile M1 dot button dot mouse button 1 down connect function. So that's when you put your finger down on the button, we want to make the person start attacking. So in here, you remember that we just fire a server for attack, and then we did all of these prerequisite functions over here. So in order to do that, again, we can just require the state service, local state service or local modules, and then we can get our state service. Dot state service, and we'll just do that. And we also want to get our character, so let's do that. And there we go. That should be good. And we also want to get our remotes. And now our mobile thing should work. Alright, now that that's done, let's go ahead and play the game and equip a weapon. So let's go equip our dagger, for example. And you see that once we hold down M1, it'll work. But if we let go, it will stop working. And you'll notice that our jump button disappears because that's how we scripted it. We want the jump to be disabled while they're M1ing. And now let's stop playing the game and let's go back to this. And now we want to work on our mobile blocking. So we can say mobile frame dot mobile block dot mouse button 1 or dot button mouse button 1 down connect function. So this is when we're holding it down, we want them to block. So let's go over here and we'll look at how we did the blocking. Dot block fire server, and let's see. All right. Right here. Let's see how we want to do this. Alright, so we can go over here and we can say if not status folder, find first child blocking. Let's get our status folder, so we can say status folder equals character with child status, comma, map.huge. Then we'll just let them block. Otherwise, we'll just unblock. So we can say .mobile block, .button, and mouse button went up. So it's when you release it, we can make them stop blocking. So there we go. That should work. Oops, need to switch it over to our mobile device. And then if you play the game, and we will equip fist in this case. And let's hold block. Oops. Oh wait, it's because I am on PC. I'm trying to attack. Because you notice that if I'm clicking on the screen, it'll attack. Because I'm on PC and the button works. But if you're on mobile, this will definitely work. Let's see what else we want. Okay, in order to fix that, we can do one thing. We can go over here and we can change this. And we can say if press 1, and we can say if not user input service touch enabled, or we can say if user input service touch enabled, or user input service gamepad enabled. Then we just want to not do anything, because we don't want them to be accessing mobile and controller functions at the same time. Similarly, we will do the same with attacking or blocking. So over here we can say that, else we will allow them to block. Let's see what else we want to do. Right here as well, we can say if user input service, then else we will do it. Because we want to override functionality if they're on either mobile or controller. And as for sprinting, let's see where we add in sprinting. It was this at the same spot right here. So if they hold left shift or they're on mobile dots touch enabled, then we want them to sprint regardless, because mobile players have a hard time like holding down both fingers at once. So we just want to say, okay, if they're mobile, we just give them automatic sprinting. So now if we play the game, you notice that our M1 functionality isn't working anymore. If we click on the screen, and then if we go over here, you'll notice that we sprint immediately on mobile. And if we equipped our fist, M1 isn't working, but the M1 on the screen is working. And if we hold block, you notice that it works. So, alright, and if we go back to our screen, and let's go ahead and add in dashing. So, let's see how we worked on with dashing over here. There we go. Alright, so in our input script, we can make a function called dash, like so, which would just handle all of our dashing things. And we'll just do dash. Alright, so rather than having to just add in a ton of new lines of code for just a single mobile dashing thing, we can just get the dash button in the mobile frame. So in here, we can say local player GUI equals, equals our local players GUI. We can say player wait for child player GUI comma math.h, and we'll get our controller mobile frame controller/mobile comma math.h, and then now we can go ahead and get the mobile dash button. So down here we can say controller mobile frame dot mobile frame dot mobile dash dot button dot mouse button one click connect function, and then we can just dash like so, and that should work. Now if we play the game, you'll notice that we're dashing like so. And obviously on mobile you can move your mouse while pressing dash at the same time. But let's say if you're sitting still, we just want you to automatically be able to dash forward. So in the get dash direction function, we can, let's see where I put it, right here. We can just say return forward, like so. So now regardless if you're moving or not, if you press dash, you would just dash forward, like so. And that's gonna be the mobile compatibility thing. So once again, sword, you have your trail, and then if you're blocking, you notice that, okay, it works. And once again, you see that, okay, your sprinting is constantly enabled for that. Alright, now let's stop playing the game. And then, now, since we're done with our mobile compatibility, we can work on the controller. So, we can say if user input service is key down, enum.keycode dot button A, I believe, is what the attack is. Let's see. Or no, button X. So, if that button is held down, we will allow the player to attack. So we'll just say over here and allow them to attack. So now if you play the game, and let's go ahead and enable our controller, and let's move up a little bit and get a sword. Let's equip our sword. Let's hold X. Oops. Alright, so now a fix for this is what we can do. We can just say is gamepad button down enum.gamepad1, and then we can say enum.keycode.button X, I believe. Yes, button X. And now, if we play the game, it should work. So let's go ahead and give us a sword. Let's hold down X. And then now, you notice that the slash finally works. And now, we can do the same thing with blocking. So in here, you'll notice that we have blocking. And now we just copy and paste this code up here. And then we can remove this. So we just comment controller or mobile. And then right here, we'll just say remotes, or if not, go over here. And let's do that. And we can say if not is typing, then we can say if controller, then if user input service, if not, user input service is key down, enum.keycode.f, then we want them to stop blocking. Otherwise, we'll go over here and copy and paste this right here. And for controller, we can say if not is button down, button B, I believe, then we just want them to stop blocking. And mobile, remember, is something different for that. And now over here, we can say if not status folder, and if they're holding F, then we want them to block. And same thing, if status folder found for shout blocking, or not found for shout blocking, then we want them to block. So now if we play the game, and we equip the tool, you'll notice that if we equipped our tool right here, go to X, and if we hold B, you'll notice that we're blocking now. And obviously our, well, it seems like our unblocking thing isn't working. So the only part that could be is right around here. So let's see. Alright, so one thing we can do is just go over here, remove the not is typing part, and format our script. So right here, we'll just go ahead and remove all of this right here, and remove this end, and format the script. So we can go over here and say and not is typing, and we can go over here and say and not is typing. Alright, and we can say else, and we can copy and paste this. If status folder found shell is blocking, then false. And same thing over here, we can just say else, and that should be good. And if we play the game and give ourselves a sword and hold X, it'll work. And if we block and unblock, it also works too, which is exactly what we want. Alright, and the next thing we want to do is we also want to enable sprinting for controller as well. And this is a pretty simple one-liner. We go over here to our sprinting. Let's go ahead and find sprinting. Right here, or user input service gamepad enabled. Then we want to constantly sprint. So you see that we constantly sprint now. Alright, now let's see. The next thing we want to do is we want to add dashing for the controller. Alright, now so if we want to add dashing, we can say input.keycode equals enum.keycode.button L3. Then we just want to dash, like so. Now if we play the game and we start dashing, oops, you notice that dashing works. And button L3 is basically just this button right here, the middle button. If we press down that, you see that it works. So yeah, that's good. And once again, if we go over here and get us a weapon, in this case we'll get fist, and then we will equip their fist. Notice how the punching works, and if we dash or block, it works as well. And then if we punch the dummy, and blocking also works. Alright. Now, the next thing we want to do is just do a slight little bug fix, which is where making it to where you can't do any action at all when you die. So, if we go over here to our input, we can just say if we died, like so, if status void or found first child died, then we want to just disable the script. So script.enabled equals false. And that should be good. So that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. What we did today is that we just added in weapon trails and things like that. Just a few extra details and cosmetics to the game to make it look more full. And we also added dashing sounds, which you see like that, and dashing effects. So yeah, thank you for watching. Tomorrow's video is going to be the series finale, or the ending of the whole combat series tutorial. It'll just show everything that we added and go through every single one of the scripts and explain a bit more in depth of what the thought process was behind it. And yeah, please leave a like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.